Reincarnated with the strongest system. Chapter 761 The Thorns of the Crimson Rose Part 1. 63rd Floor Dungeon of the Horde. Everyone rest for a while, a tall lady with tanned skin said with a smile. We will resume our dungeon exploration in 3 hours and head to the 64th floor. The tall lady's name was Millis. She was the leader of the adventurer party known as Crimson Rose. She was one of the best warriors of the Ares Empire that was ruled by the Amazons. Since the dungeon of the Horde was within their borders, several hunting parties from the Ares Empire would frequently visit this dungeon, to collect materials, treasure chests, and beast cores. Leader, how far will we go this time? An Amazon with short hair, that made her look like a pretty boy, asked. Millis pondered for a bit before giving her answer. They had been challenging this particular dungeon for the past few months and this was the farthest floor that they had stepped on. Usually, their base of operation was only around the 59th floor, but due to her group's improvement they had decided to challenge the boss on the 60th floor. The battle on their current floor had been intense, but due to their amazing teamwork, they had been able to beat the 3 millennial bosses, and their 6 centennial minions. Millis was a black-ranked warrior. Her strength was just a rank away from becoming a saint. This was why Empress Andraste held her in high regard. We will just check to see how strong the monsters on the 64th floor are, Millis replied. If we can't handle them, we will end our expedition and return to the Empire. Finally. I'm sick and tired of looking at these orcs. I know, right? Aren't there any beautiful ladies around? It's quite unfortunate that we only see our fellow Amazons among these parts. I really want to hug a delicate-looking beauty and shower her with kisses. I miss Lilith. Last time, she promised that she would give me a kiss if we could clear the 60th floor. Ha ha ha. Now that we've done it, I can cash in on our promise. What? No fair. I should have also asked her. Millis shook her head helplessly. She also wanted to end their expedition and visit the nearby city in order to play around with the beauties that were waiting for her return. She, too, was tired of looking at orcs all day long. Among the high-ranking adventurer parties, the Crimson Rose was well known for their strength and their desire for beautiful women. This unique taste of theirs gave Empress Andrit a headache, because instead of looking for strong men, the Crimson Rose would rather seduce women and tumble in the sheets with them. Leader, I can sense some people coming, an Amazon with long brown hair reported as she reached for her weapon. She was the scout of their party and her senses were the most sensitive among the group. How many are they? Millis asked as she held her 2 swords, one in each hand. I can hear 5 pairs of footsteps, the scout reported. She had pressed her ear on the ground, in order to know how many enemies they were dealing with. Get ready for battle, Millis ordered. Anyone who is able to reach this far are no amateurs. The members of the Crimson Rose nodded their heads in agreement. All of them held their weapons firmly in their hands, ready to attack at Millis' command. Her party was composed of 7 people, and all of them were seasoned fighters. Getting attacked inside the dungeon by people was very common. Crimson Rose had done the same things several times. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak, and this was a law that all Amazons adhered to. If their opponent was strong, they would just run. If their opponents were weak, then they would see whether their party could take advantage of the people who had arrived on the same floor as them. It didn't take long before they saw the people that their scout had sensed earlier. Although there was still some distance between them, they were able to appraise their opponents from afar. 3 men, and 2 ladies, the short-haired tomboy's eyes widened in surprise. Soon, a smile appeared on her lips as her gaze landed on Princess Sidonie's seductive face and body. Leader, I guess today is our lucky day, the long-haired scout smiled as she took out arrows whose tips were dipped with a strong poison that was meant to paralyze her victims. Millis took a deep breath when she saw Princess Sidonie. She had seen many beautiful women before, but the young lady in front of her had far surpassed those that she had seen so far. She's even more beautiful than Lilith, Millis thought. She couldn't take her eyes off the girl that had long, reddish-brown hair, and eyes that fanned the desires that were starting to surface in her chest. "Leader, look at the little girl beside her," one of her members said. "She's so adorable. Can I take her home?" Due to her subordinate's words, Millis forcefully tore her gaze away from the seductive beauty and focused her attention on the pink-haired girl who was radiating an innocence that made her heart melt. For her, both ladies had unique temperaments which highlighted their charms. One was a seductive beauty that could bring the downfall of a nation, the other a small fairy whom they couldn't help but want to hug and protect. Both girls were irresistible, and Millis and her group had already made up their minds to take them back to the Ares Empire with them. William's group stopped their advance and looked at the pretty girls with tan skin, who were all looking at Princess Sidonie and Chiffon. The desire in their eyes was pretty evident, which made William raise an eyebrow. "Sidonie, did you use your charm on them?" William inquired. Princess Sidonie shook her head. "No. You know that I stopped doing that long ago. The only one I want to charm is you. Still, these girls are not normal. The stares that they're giving me are the same as those lustful men who want to eat me up." "Will, why are they looking at me like that?" Chiffon asked. She was someone that had suffered many hardships in the past, so she was quite sensitive to people staring at her. "Maybe they want to eat you up as well, just like Sidonie," William chuckled as he patted Chiffon's head. "Don't worry. I'll handle them." William stepped forward and blocked the gazes of the Amazons who were staring at his wives. "Friends, we are just passing by," William said with a smile. "Can you please, step aside and let us pass?" Millis frowned as she gazed at the red-headed teenager who seemed to be the leader of this group of people. She appraised him from head to foot before giving her answer. "You want to pass?" "Sure. But, leave the two ladies behind," Millis said. "Don't worry. As long as you do that, I promise that my sisters and I will not cause any trouble for you. We're very good at dealing with ladies. They will be treated with great love and care. Aren't I right, sisters?" The Amazons giggled as they nodded their heads. Although they didn't mind taking the initiative to fight against William's group and take the ladies by force, they still decided to talk things out in a civil manner. "Some people just don't know when to back down unless they get beaten to a pulp," William replied as he shook his head. "Can't we all just mind our own businesses and get along? Why must we make things difficult for each other? I really don't have time to deal with third-rate villains." Millis chuckled as she unleashed her aura. "Third-rate villains? Good. I'll show you what these third-rate villains could do. Sisters, let's go." Zhu, who was standing behind the group, walked past William. Since he was standing behind Shat, none of the girls had been able to see him. Among all of them, his temper was the shortest, so when the Amazons refused to talk like civilized people, he decided to take care of them himself. Summoning his nine-toothed rake, Zhu stood in front of William's party like an immovable mountain, ready to smash the Amazons who were planning to make trouble for them. However, the moment he appeared, the Amazon party stopped in their tracks and looked at Zhu with shock. Leader. See, calm down. Don't do anything stupid." Millis raised his hand to stop her party's advance. All of their eyes were locked on Zhu's chubby body, which made their hearts skip a beat. Sir, may I know your esteemed name?" Millis asked as she tried to calm her wildly beating heart. She had never felt this way before, but the moment she laid her eyes on Zhu, she felt that the world had suddenly become more colorful. Chapter 762 The Thorns of the Crimson Rose Part 2. Zhu looked at the Amazons in front of him with contempt. "You want to know this sir's name? Fine. I will tell you." Zhu rested the nine-toothed rake on his shoulder before raising his chin in arrogance. "I am Zhu. Remember it and remember it well." Zhu? His name is so manly. Ha, such a well-rounded belly. It makes me want to rest my head on it while I sleep. Those meaty arms, how good it must feel to be embraced by them. Those chubby legs, his thighs must be thirsty. I like. Sisters, remember the tradition. We're going to draw lots who gets to do it with him first. Same old rule, okay. Okay. William looked at the crazy girls whose pupils had turned to hearts while looking at Zhu. Dave folk? Are these girls monkeys in heat? Sensing that something was amiss, William stepped forward and stood between Zhu and the Amazons, blocking their views. This immediately put a scowl on the Amazons' faces and all of them glared at William. Ladies, we're in a bit of a hurry, so can you all step aside and let us pass? William asked. Millis looked at William in contempt as she pointed straight at his face. Shut up, ugly. We're not interested in you. If you want to go, then go. That's right. No one is asking you to stay. If you want to go, then scram. Still here? We already said that you can go. What is this? You want us to notice you so badly? Sorry, we have high standards. A snot-nosed half-elf like you can just roll over to the side. A series of curses followed suit, which made B1, who was perched on Chiffon's shoulder, look at the girls with appreciation. If the dumb bird had fingers, it would had already given the Amazons a thumbs up. You ugly? Me? You're calling me ugly? William couldn't believe that someone dared to call him ugly. He looked at the crazy Amazons and wondered if they had some eye problems. Millis spat on the ground. What? Not convinced? What's so good about you? Just look at your hair? Do you think having red hair makes you look good? Compared to that red bird over there, you are nothing. William glanced at B1, and the dumb bird glanced back at him. The half-elf was surprised to see the disdainful gaze that B1 was giving him. B1 then shifted his attention to the girls and began to nag at them. He felt insulted to be compared to William. Excuse me? Don't lump me up with him. Only his head is red, while I'm red all over. B1 said with contempt. Sorry, Mr. Bird. I was in the wrong. I apologize for comparing him to someone as magnificent as you. As long as you understand, then I forgive you. Just make sure not to do it again in the future. Millis then stared back at William with a haughty expression on your face. Compared to Sir Zhu, you're too skinny. Do you think that girls will like someone like you? Millis chuckled. She then moved her gaze to William's lower half to appraise it. The other Amazons did the same. Although they liked beautiful women, that didn't mean that they didn't have any standards when it came to men. They knew that someday they would have to birth strong warriors to continue the bloodline of the Amazon race. Because of this, their standards when it came to men were more unique, compared to their other sisters. Half a minute later, all the Amazons chuckled. Some of them covered their lips and giggled, while Millis roared in laughter. They would look at William's lower half from time to time only to laugh again. What's that? A little snake? Can he even satisfy the ladies with that? Sister, the snakes will be insulted if you compare them to that thing. At most, it's just a worm. That's not just an ordinary worm. It's a little worm. Seriously, no woman will appreciate that kind of thing. Ew. No thanks. Millis stopped laughing and looked at William with a pitiful gaze. It's quite unfortunate that you were born with such a little thing, Millis commented before shifting her attention to Zhu's lower half. The Amazons did the same and all of their eyes sparkled in delight. As expected of Sir Zhu. He is a dragon amongst men. Such a strong, and sturdy, I can't wait to. He. Sis, can you let me give it a try first? If I can ride that thing, I can die happy. William's face twitched as he heard the Amazons' non-stop praises of Zhu. He was about to argue with them when he felt someone tugging on her clothes. The half-elf glanced at the adorable pink-haired girl who was looking up at him with a smile. Will, don't worry. I love your little worm. Chiffon said with an innocent tone. The moment the Amazons heard it, all of them laughed out loud, which made William almost spit a mouthful of blood. They even praised Chiffon for being honest. The Amazon's jeers were like sharp arrows that pierced William's heart. The damage he received from this short exchange of words was stronger than the attack of a myriad beast. Princess Sidonie's and Ian's bodies shook as they desperately covered their lips to prevent themselves from laughing out loud. They had never seen William so distraught before, and it tickled their hearts. Although they knew that the Amazons were just exaggerating things, they couldn't stop themselves from chuckling due to how confused and wronged William's expression was. It was very rare to see her husband with that kind of look on her face, which made the two beautiful ladies feel more attached to him. "Darling is so cute. I want to make love to him tonight." "Yes. Let's do that." Princess Sidonie agreed. "Let's heal his heart, and make him fall in love with us all over again." So, William has this cute side to him as well, Ian thought. It's a shame that EST isn't able to see it right now. Zhu felt that something was wrong with William, so he asked Sha to take William to the side. He was not aware that the mental damage that the half-elf had received had made William question the meaning of life. "Let my comrades pass and I'll fight with all of you for 200 rounds. Zhu declared. "Don't worry. I promise that I will show you girls mercy." Millis and the Amazons looked at Zhu with sparkling eyes when they heard his declaration. 200 rounds. Did he just say 200 rounds? I think my hips will be dislocated with that number, but it sounds exciting. I knew that he is a man among men, a dragon amongst dragons, but to think that he wants all of us to have 200 rounds with him, he sure has guts. Millis had an impatient look on her face as she glanced in William's direction. "Oi! All of you can pass," Millis stated. She was afraid that Zhu would take back his words if she didn't allow William and his groups to go past them. "Can't you all hurry up? Stop wasting our time." The Amazons even approached William's group and hurriedly pulled the half-elf, Princess Sidonie, Chiffon, Ian, and Sha along. Clearly, they were raring to go and fight Zhu for 200 rounds. None of them thought that they would feel this much attraction to a guy, and they planned to wring him dry. However, for that to happen, William's group must leave so that no one would interrupt the great battle that was about to unfold. After William's group had disappeared from their line of sight, the Amazons hurriedly attacked Zhu. The mighty demonic general of the celestial realm sneered as he prepared himself to fight 1 against 7. He was confident that no matter what tricks the girls used on him, he wouldn't lose no matter what. "Oi! Why are you taking my belt? Woman! Stop pulling my pants! Why are you girls stripping? Fight me seriously! Damn it! Woman, just where do you think you're touching?" Zhu's angry roars reverberated inside the dungeon floor, but the Amazons didn't care one bit about his plight. They even became more excited as they fought the mighty warrior seriously with all of their might. Chapter 763. Will you reward me as well? Big brother, will Zhu really be fine? Chiffon asked. She was walking hand in hand with William, and was still unaware that her innocent words earlier had almost made her husband spit a mouthful of blood. "His sacrifice will not be in vain," William replied. "He will not be forgotten. Big brother Zhu is still alive. Well, after 200 rounds, he might just re-enter the cycle of reincarnation." Princess Sidonie, who was holding onto William's arm, giggled as she covered her seductive lips with her right hand. "You've been giggling non-stop ever since we left Zhu behind," William commented. "Do you want me to call you Giggly Puff?" "Don't be like that, darling." Morgana playfully batted her eyes on him. "Don't worry. Those Amazons don't know how well endowed you are. I am the sin of lust, I guarantee that little Will is a dragon amongst dragons." William snorted, but his wife's words calmed his heart. Although he knew that the words of the Amazons were not true, it was still difficult to not be affected after being ridiculed to that extent. "After we clear this dungeon, I'll reward you for your honesty," William said as he kissed Morgana's forehead. Morgana smiled and nodded her head. "I can't wait." "Will, how about me?" Chiffon asked. Will you reward me as well? Okay. William lightly squeezed Chiffon's hand. He had already planned to reward Chiffon for what she had said earlier. He will make sure that his adorable wife would never call little Will a little worm ever again. Suddenly several centennial-ranked monster and millennial-ranked beast blocked their path. The monsters on the 63rd floor were composed of orc parties. Most of them were centennial-ranked beasts, led by a millennial beast. For most adventurer parties, this might have been a difficult battle, but for William, it was just a walk in the park. Urchitu, Psaglov, Jareth, Sharks, Xerxes, Daz, clear the way, William ordered. We are heading straight to the 70th floor. Obliterate anyone who blocks our way. The beasts of William's King's Legion charged with fervor. All of them were of the centennial rank, with Jareth, Goblin Paladin, being at the peak of the millennial rank. These monsters were nothing to them, so they bulldozed their way through and sent the orcs flying. Elliot sat on Shaw's shoulder quietly, and seemed to be deep in thought. Conan and him were twins, so the two of them had a means of communicating with each other. However, no matter how hard Elliot called out to his other half, no reply came back to him. Meanwhile, on the floor of Valhalla in the Tower of Babylon. "Father, are you really going to go?" Morgan asked. James, who was seated on top of Sleipnir, nodded his head. "I have to go," James replied. "We don't have much time." The old bandit stared at the vast expanse of space with a smile on his face. His subordinates that had fought with him in the void had all been sent back to their homes, with the exception of a few who decided to stay at the floor of Asgard, to wait for James' return. "Commander, I want to go with you," Helen said. "I promise that I will not get in your way." James sighed and shook his head. "Stay here. I don't know when I'll be back, and someone needs to watch over the Bifrost Bridge and wait for my return." "Understood. I will patiently wait for the commander's arrival." "Sorry for troubling you, Helen. Make sure that William doesn't get out of line when I'm not around." Helen smiled and nodded her head. "Compared to the commander, William is a saint. I'm sure that he will do his best to stay out of trouble." James chuckled because he knew that doing one's best would not guarantee that they would not attract trouble. This was especially true for their bloodline. "Morgan, watch over the floor of Asgard," James reminded. "I don't want William to pester me when he finds out that I'm not around." Morgan nodded. "Father, what about the elven prophecy? What about it? What do we do if he—" James smirked as he patted Morgan's shoulder. "You worry too much," James said. "We all have our roles to play. You, me, Will, and the rest of the Ainsworths. However, no matter what happens, all of us are family. Anyone who harms our family will be beaten up to a pulp. There will be no exceptions. However, if something really terrible happens, use the crystal I left you. No matter where I am, I will return, running at full speed. Well then, I'm off." James straightened himself and summoned Gungnir. He then raised it high in the air and the Bifrost Bridge shot out towards the vast expanse that led to the unknown. Not long after, the old man was bathed in a radiant light. For Asgard. Sleipnir neighed and galloped on top of the Bifrost Bridge. Soon, James, and the magnificent steed, disappeared in a beam of light that pierced the fabric of time and space. Morgan, Helen, and the rest of the veterans of Lant, stared at the distance for a few minutes before returning to the castle of Asgard. "Ezio, what will you do for the time being?" Helen asked as he walked side by side with the man who had always been around James. Just like Helen, Ezio also wanted to accompany James, but Sleipnir would only allow one person to travel on his back, and that was none other than James. Also, Ezio didn't have the means to cross between worlds. He would only hinder James from his goal if he insisted on accompanying the old coot on his journey. "I'll go and see William for the time being," Ezio replied. "I'm sure that the commander is also worried about him." Helen nodded. "Be careful. There are many old monsters in Hestia Academy. The headmaster and our commander had conflicts in the past as well. Okay. You be careful as well, Ezio stated before turning into a black mist. Now that James was not around, Ezio decided to roam around the central continent for the time being. The old man had asked him to dig for more information about the hidden organization, Dias. James believed that there was more to this particular organization than met the eye. If possible, he wanted Ezio to find their headquarters and infiltrate it. That way, he would have a better picture on what their goals really were. If their organization's goal was to destroy the world of Hestia, then Ezio would report this to Malakae. After the battle at the Passage of the Worlds, the old bandit and the Dracolich had a nice long chat with each other. Since both of their goals were the same, they decided to cooperate and form an alliance. Since James was not around, he would let the Dracolich handle this menace that had long hidden within the world. They were now allies, so it was only natural for him to share information with Malakae, who was also busy exploring the world, in search for the hidden treasures that the gods had left behind after the era of the gods. Chapter 764 Conquering the Orc Dungeon Part 1. Are you girls crazy? Zhu shouted as he pried away the naughty hand who was touching his ding-ding-dong. Fight me seriously. Right now, the chubby young man had almost been stripped of all of his clothes and was now down to his pants. The Amazons' warriors didn't even bother to take it off properly and simply ripped every kind of clothing that they could grab on Zhu's body. Zhu didn't dare to use his weapon because the girls weren't using any. He was once a general in the heavenly domain, and he would never strike an unarmed opponent. The chubby young man also knew that the girls had no intention of harming him, but the crazed look in their eyes made his body fat unconsciously shudder. They were just like a pack of hyenas that were drooling as they stared at his body, hungry for his juicy meat. Chance. Millis took the opportunity to charge at Zhu when the latter was besieged from all sides. With one mighty pull, he managed to snatch Zhu's remaining clothing, which made the latter cover his lower half with his hand. This is your last warning. Zhu said with a beet red face. Don't make me angry. I'm warning you. Even if you are women, I will show you no mercy. Don't be like that, Sir Zhu. Right. We just want to have a good time. We won't hurt you. Surrender yourself to your fate. We promise that we will all have a good time. Millis grinned evilly as she made a gesture for the Amazons to encircle Zhu. Their prey was already cornered. All that they needed to do was go in for the kill. Sisters, attack him. Millis ordered. I call first dibs. No fair. I want to be first. Stop arguing. Let's incapacitate him first. We can just draw lots later. Okay. Seeing that the crazy women were out to get him, Zhu gritted his teeth as his eyes turned bloodshot. You forced me to do this. Zhu roared. He had enough of the Amazon's craziness, so he decided to unleash his true powers. The chubby young man transformed into a demonic pig that was over 4 meters tall. He glared hatefully at the women who were currently looking at him with their mouths hanging wide open. Wow! So big! I don't think that will fit in me. That is surely a mouthful. *T. Millis' eyes gazed at the towering giant and his mighty dong. She unconsciously gulped because she knew that Zhu's hyper weapon would definitely break them if they faced it head-on. While the Amazons were still in a daze, Zhu used his movement technique and knocked all of them unconscious. As someone whose strength was at the peak of the millennial rank, he was stronger than all the Amazons combined. Bunch of crazies, Zhu muttered. He was about to walk away when he noticed a group of orcs headed in his direction. He gave the unconscious Amazons a sidelong glance before looking at the approaching monsters. So annoying. Zhu clicked his tongue as he charged towards the orcs to eliminate them. He could have just walked away and allowed the orcs to attack the defenseless women, but if he did that, Zhu knew that it would leave a bitter aftertaste in his mouth. Several minutes later, a chubby young man ran through the dungeon, following the monster trail that William's group had left behind. After dealing with the orcs, he carried the Amazons and tossed them into the safe zone where no monsters dared to go. Only after he was finished with his business did he go to catch up to William's group, which was now on the 64th floor. Several hours later. "We've finally arrived," William said as he stared at the 5-meter golden gate that barred their way. This was the entrance to the boss room of the 70th floor. Once he made it past this last hurdle, he would be able to get the dungeon core essence, which would help him upgrade his Familiomancer job class. William pressed his hands over the gate and pushed it open. Just like all boss rooms, the interior was dark. Only when all the combatants had entered its domain would the monsters appear to start the battle. When everyone had entered the room, torchlights appeared around them. It didn't take long before their gazes landed on the throne at the far end of the room. Sitting on it was a giant orc. It was none other than the final boss of the dungeon, the black-eyed orc king. William glanced at the final boss and used his appraisal skill on it. Boss monster. Tyrant of the Horde. Threat level, pseudo-myriad beast. Cannot be added to the herd. The black-eyed orc king is known for its brutality against all races. Among the orc kings, this particular monster will actively attack any kind of settlement near its domain, including the settlement of other orcs. It is just a step away from the myriad rank, which makes this beast a very dangerous opponent, especially for unsuspecting adventurer parties. Its battle cry will easily paralyze those with weak willpower. Fighting against this monster requires great caution. When the 5-meter-tall, black-eyed orc king stood up from its throne, several monsters appeared around it. William appraised the monsters as an orc shaman, an orc chieftain, an orc marauder, an orc hunter, an orc berserkers, and an orc spear master. All of them are millennial beast in the middle stages, William thought as he eyed the final obstacles blocking his way. Chiffon, you will fight against the orc chieftain alongside Shat. Make sure to summon B1 and B2 to accompany you in battle as well, William ordered. Ash, Sidney, the two of you take care of the orc spear master. Jareth and Daz, goblin warmonger, I want you to pin down the orc king. Psoglov, you deal with the orc shaman, Urchitu, you handle the orc berserker. Sharks, goblin marauder, you, Xerxes and Sparky, Sharks' mount, handle the marauder. Elliot and Zhu, assist any side that needs assistance. Be mindful of your surroundings. Now, attack. Everyone took their positions and attacked their respective targets. William crossed his arms over his chest as he observed the battle. His king's legion was already many times stronger than they had been in the war in the southern continent. The only people he was worried about were his wives. Unlike the millennial beasts under his command, the girls had just stepped into the adamantium rank. William wanted them to familiarize themselves with group battles, so that they would be able to work hand in hand in the future to fight against stronger opponents. Jareth, the goblin paladin, was the strongest monster under William's command. It had already stepped into the peak of the millennial rank, and was only a notch weaker than the Goblin King. Daz, the Goblin Warmonger, was a tier weaker than Jareth, but it was still a monster at the middle stages of the millennial rank. Both of them were strong enough to hold the Orc King at bay, and prevent it from supporting its minions. Chiffon was currently fighting while holding Sharur in her hands. Since the Smasher of Thousands was a mythic weapon, William felt that the pink-haired girl needed to familiarize herself with wielding it. He had already equipped Chiffon with the Weapon Master job class, which allowed her to wield any kind of weapon. This allowed her to get a deeper understanding on how to fully maximize Sharur's strength in battle. Princess Sidney and Ash were using their magical abilities to suppress their opponent. One wielded the power of purple flames, the other, the cold and merciless waters. Their combination attacks of fire and water made their opponent scream in pain. Elliot and Zhu would intercept some of the attacks of the monsters in order to lessen the pressure that everyone was experiencing. As William observed the battle, he noticed a few notifications on his status page that surprised him greatly. William's eyes widened at the unexpected surprise. He didn't know why the system completion rate had started to move, so he hurriedly asked Optimus for confirmation. The system once said that once his system completion rate reached 100%, William would be able to fully unlock Optimus' full power. The half-elf wanted to know how this was happening, so that he would be able to further increase the completion rate that had been very hard to upgrade. Chapter 765 Conquering the Orc Dungeon Part 2. Optimus, what is happening? William asked. I'm not doing anything, but the completion rate is increasing. Can you explain this to me? When William had unlocked the system synchronization completion rate in the Tower of Babylon, he had tried all means to upgrade it. There was one problem. Increasing the completion rate wasn't as simple as he thought it would be. Since then, his completion rate reached 15%. However, after it did, it showed no signs of improving. The half-elf had tried fighting the monsters in Atlantis to raise it higher, but the rating just wouldn't budge. This was why he was surprised when the stagnant meter was finally moving, even when he was simply standing and spectating the battle. If he could crack the code on how to increase the rating, he would be able to unlock the powers of his system at a rapid pace. Well, the system completion rate doesn't only rely on your breakthroughs. It is also connected to the quality of the forces under your command, and the relationship you have with your wives. Right now, your wife's fighting prowess is slowly having an upgrade. This results in overcoming a milestone, which prompted the rating to move. William rubbed his chin in understanding. So you're saying that if my wives get stronger, my completion rate will also become higher? Yes. However, do not expect a dramatic increase. Even so, I think you will be able to reach 20% completion after this battle is over. At least, that is according to my calculations. Good. William clenched his fist in excitement. So this is also an option. This is good news. According to the information he had of the system completion rate, whenever he reaches 20% completion rate, all of his stats would increase by 50 points. If he reached 50%, he would be able to unlock one of the abilities of the system that he could use in battle. This would give William another trump card that he could use during critical situations. When he asked Optimus what kind of ability he would be able to unlock, the system only said that he would gain the ability to one-shot any myriad beast without any problem. William hissed after hearing this information. A myriad beast was not an easy opponent, and he would only be able to fight them when he used his heroic avatar, or Einherjar job class. One had a very long cooldown, the other required him to pay with his memories when it was used. Having this new trump card in hand would benefit him greatly. Is that ability awesome? William inquired. It is awesome. How awesome? It is super flashy. William was very curious to know what it was, but Optimus kept mum about it. In the end, he could only give up and return his attention to the battle that was happening in front of him. The orc chief swatted Chiffon with his mace, and the latter was forced to summon her mythical shield, Svalin, to block it. The ground under Chiffon's feet crumbled due to the powerful collision. The pink-haired girl was forced to kneel while holding up the shield in her right hand. Sha immediately clenched his hand, and the sand around him transformed into a giant fist, which he sent to punch the orc chieftain's face, sending it skidding for several meters. Chiffon finally got a breather and unsummoned Svalin. Chiffon, activate your giantess form, Scherer proposed. Let's smash this monster to kingdom come. Chiffon readily agreed as she took a deep breath. Moments later, she grew in size until she was 5 meters tall. Scherer also grew alongside Chiffon, and its dark blue body glowed brightly. The orc chieftain roared in anger as it once again charged at Chiffon, wielding its iron club with fury. The giantess didn't back away and faced the orc chieftain head-on. A powerful shockwave spread across the battleground as their weapons clashed. This time, the orc chieftain's weapon was overwhelmed by Chiffon and Scherer's might, which sent the second strongest monster in the boss room flying. Chiffon was surprised by the complete reversal and stared at the weapon in her hand. Did you see that? Scherer asked. Clearly, it was very satisfied with its performance. Now do you understand how powerful I am? Chiffon nodded her head before running towards the orc chieftain. Now that she had the upper hand, she wouldn't allow the monster to recover. William smiled as he watched his usual obedient, and adorable, wife brandish the mace in her hand with fury. The pained cries of the orc chieftain, that was being pummeled repeatedly, made the other orcs' hearts tremble. In the distance, dark and fire magic collided and repelled each other. Psoglov had finally stepped into the centennial rank and was employing its abilities to its fullest. In the past, the demonic dog was a being that bullied the weak and feared the strong. However, after becoming part of William's King's Legion, it had faced many life-threatening situations, which had changed its outlook on life. The thing that changed it the most was Urchitu's death in the southern continent. It was at that moment when Psoglov realized that there would be situations where running was not an option. In the past, it would not dare to sacrifice its life in order to save its friends, but after getting along with the beasts in the Thousand Beast domain like Kasaganaga and Urchitu, it no longer lived the lone wolf lifestyle. It strived in order to get stronger, even to the point of always arguing with Kasaganaga over beast cores. The orc shaman that it was fighting against specialized in fire magic. Right now, Psoglov was a tier lower than it, so the battle was not moving in its favor. Will, I need help here. Psoglov shouted as he was blown away by a massive fireball, which it blocked using a shield made of dark energy. William pointed at the demonic dog and used his authority to grant it additional power. Kinship evolution. William declared, and the demonic dog glowed brightly. A pair of bat-like wings appeared on its back, and instead of a single eye, it now had 3 eyes on its head, which looked at the orc shaman with a devilish gaze. Kinship evolution was an ability that William and his lovers had acquired after he had upgraded his job class to Quick Shot Shepherd. It allowed him to raise the power of any member of his legion. The only downside was that he could only upgrade one of them at a time. As long as the skill was active, he couldn't choose any other beast to upgrade aside from the one that he had forcefully evolved. Death Ray. Psoglov shouted, and the third eye on its forehead shot an eerie red beam of light that struck the orc shaman in the center of its chest. The latter shrieked in pain as it clutched its chest, while hurling a fireball at the demonic dog, who dodged it in a casual manner. Ha ha ha! Now you're no match for me! Psoglov laughed as he flew towards the weakened orc shaman. It's payback time! What followed next was a one-sided trashing. Psoglov unleashed dozens of dark whips that wrapped around the shaman's body, holding it in place. Shadow Ball Barrage. Psoglov fired a volley of shadow balls, the size of a basketball, at the immobile orc shaman, making it scream with fear and resentment. Unfortunately, it could not move its body, or do anything to block the demonic dog's attack, so it had no choice but to endure the powerful barrage that made it feel helpless. Seeing that the demonic dog now had the upper hand, William shifted his attention to Jareth and Daz, who were fighting against the Orc King. Although the Orc King was stronger, the Goblin Paladin and the Goblin Warmonger had more battle experience. They evaded, parried, and blocked its attacks without fail. Sometimes, the two of them would work together in order to deliver blows at the Orc King's blind spots, causing it to howl in fury. William asked Jareth and Daz to pin the Orc King, so that it wouldn't be able to help its allies. Once William's team had effectively dealt with their targets, they would fight the Orc King together and end its futile struggle. One by one, the Orc King's subordinates fell. After that, everyone, with the exception of William, attacked the Orc King from all sides. In the end, the Orc King fell, and a series of notifications appeared on William's status page. Aside from the experience and Beast Core rewards, William's prestige class, Prince of Thunder, had finally reached its max level. Ding! Congratulations! Prince of Thunder job class has reached its max level. In order to upgrade this prestige class, you must first go to the Hall of Thunder located at the Forbidden Ground of 7th Sanctum. Finally, William thought as he stared at the job class that had been with him for a very long time. In the past, he was warned not to show the power of lightning to anyone, but during the battle in the southern continent, he had used this repeatedly due to its useful abilities. However, the thing that caught his attention the most was none other than the system's completion rate, which had stopped on the 20% mark. With this achievement, William was finally able to gain 50 additional stats. He was also a step closer to finally unlocking the true power of the strongest system. Chapter 766. Which one would you choose? After beating the boss of the 70th floor, William found himself staring at the dungeon core of the Orc dungeon. Elliot was also inside the room with him and stared at the glowing orb of light that powered the entire dungeon. "Will, the bottle," Elliot reminded. "I will help you gather the dungeon core essence." William nodded and took out a vial that was made from a special material that Celeste had given him. Elliot then placed his palm over the dungeon core and closed his eyes. He, and Conan, were born as dungeon cores in the past. Due to the actions of Dias, both of them had been corrupted, and only their inner cores were able to survive. If William hadn't arrived on time, the twin cores might have been destroyed, and Elliot and Conan might not have been born as the half-elf's familiars. Dungeon cores could be considered as powerful batteries. Their powers were limitless. However, if one were to take their essence, they would weaken for a week or two, which would slow down the spawn rate of the monsters that appeared inside the dungeon. "Thank you," Elliot said softly after he finished communicating with the dungeon core. Suddenly, two wisps of light emerged from the surface of the core and flew towards the vial in William's hand. After that, the bright glow of the dungeon core dimmed a bit. This signified that the transfer had been completed. "Will, place your mark on the dungeon core," Elliot said. "I talked to him about your secret class and he is very interested in joining you when the seal on your powers has been unlocked." "Okay," William replied. Even if Elliot didn't remind him, he was already planning on adding the Dungeon of the Horde to the dungeons that would be under his command, once his Dungeon Conqueror job class had been fully awakened. Once a dungeon had been added to his legion, the dungeon would be transferred inside his Ring of Conquest, allowing William to modify it on his whim. Of course, once this happened, the Dungeon of the Horde would disappear from the central continent. All that would remain is an empty husk, that would slowly deteriorate over time. No monsters would respawn inside it, and the number of floors would decrease day by day until nothing was left. By that time, the Ares Empire would conduct its own investigation, but it would already be too late to do anything. "It's done," William said after placing the mark of the Conqueror on the dungeon core. The dungeon core glowed once as if acknowledging that it had been claimed by him. A few seconds later, the dungeon core sent William back to the boss room where his party members were waiting for him. "Is it over?" Princess Sidonie asked. "Yes." William smiled. "Let's go back to the academy." A magic circle appeared under their feet, and all of them were sent back to the entrance of the dungeon. Their mission had been completed, and it was now time to return to the academy. Elliot had already told William about Conan's condition. According to the angelic familiar, Conan would only wake up once the Familiomancer job class has been successfully upgraded. Because of this, William wasted no more time and went to a secluded place to transfer everyone back inside his Thousand Beast domain. Afterwards, he activated the skill of the Prince of Thunder job class to turn into a lightning bolt that streaked towards Hestia Academy. Several hours later, after arriving at the academy, William parted with everyone as he went to look for Celeste. He was worried about Conan's condition, so he decided to upgrade his job class as soon as possible. Fortunately, Celeste had already made preparations. The beautiful elf led William to the north side of the academy where a temple of the gods was built. When they reached the inner temple, a statue of a beautiful woman, wearing celestial clothes greeted William's vision. William had already met many gods, and he wondered who this god was. Celeste, who was paying close attention to William, smiled as she told him a little about the goddess statue that was enshrined inside the temple. "She is Her Excellency, Hestia," Celeste stated. "She is the goddess of the hearth, home, and family. Among the goddesses of this world, she is known as a pacifist and dislikes conflicts. Some say that she appears in front of heroes who will save this world, one way or another. Those who are able to see Her Excellency can consider themselves lucky, for very few people catch her interest. William gazed at the beautiful statue that had a gentle smile on her face. He had already met several gods, but he hadn't had the opportunity to see Hestia in the Temple of the 10,000 Gods. "Have you seen her, Professor?" William inquired. "Me?" Celeste shook her head. "No. How about you?" "Not yet. But, maybe I'll see her in the future." "Keep dreaming. Do you really think you're a protagonist or something?" William wanted to tell her that he was indeed a protagonist. However, he knew that Celeste wouldn't believe him, so he decided to just put the matter aside for now and focus on his advancement ceremony. The half-elf looked down at the cushion he was holding in his hands. Lying on top of it was none other than Conan, who was sleeping peacefully. He hoped that after the ceremony, the little devil would once again open his eyes and accompany him like usual. "Let's start," Celeste said. Chloe and Claire floated beside her as they, too, prepared for the ceremony. "I call upon you, esteemed king of all familiars." Celeste pressed her hands together in a prayer. "Your loyal followers humbly ask you for your guidance. Please, honor us with your presence." A moment later, a bright light appeared inside the inner temple. William hastily closed his eyes because the light was too bright for him. Only when he felt that everything returned to normal did he open his eyes. This time, he didn't see Celeste, Chloe, and Claire. He stood in a completely white world, devoid of any other color. "We finally meet. I've been waiting for a long time." A calm, yet firm voice said from behind William. The half-elf slowly turned his body to look behind him, and there he saw an old man, wearing a white robe with many symbols, similar to hieroglyphs. The old man had a friendly expression on his face, and his presence made William feel calm. "My name is Zenon," Zenon said softly. "I am the god of familiars, and I am here to help you ascend to become a familiomancer sovereign." "Nice to meet you, William." "It's my honor to meet you, Your Excellency, Zenon," William replied. "Can we start the ascension ceremony?" Zenon nodded his head. "Of course, but before that, let me ask you a serious question first. Is that fine with you?" William nodded and waited patiently for Zenon's next words. This was the first time he was meeting the god of familiars and he was very curious about what he had to say. "Tell me, William. If you were given a choice between saving this world, or saving the person you love, which one would you choose?" Chapter 767 William's Choice. William lowered his head when he heard Zenon's question. The god of familiars gave the half-elf a knowing smile because he knew that the answer to this question wouldn't be an easy one. In order to not make things difficult for William, he decided to throw in a lifeline to make his choice easier. "There is no right or wrong answer to this question," Zenon said. "Just tell me what you think, and also, please, give me the reason why you chose that answer." Actually, the reason why William frowned was not because he couldn't choose from the two. He just remembered a few things that made him sad, so he decided to lower his head to hide the expression on his face. "Your Excellency, I know what it feels like to lose someone dear to you," William replied as he raised his head. "I also experienced the hopelessness of seeing my homeland be destroyed even after giving it everything that I had to protect it." The half-elf paused as he stared straight at the god of familiars. He wanted Zenon to understand that when it came to these two things, he would choose neither of them. "Your Excellency, I am a greedy person," William stated. "Regardless of the cost, regardless of what happens, I will hold both my loved one and the world in the palms of my hands. I will save them both. In order to save both, you need strength. The way you are now, I'm afraid that you don't have the qualifications to be greedy. Even so, my answer will still be the same. I will save both." Zenon narrowed his eyes as he met William's gaze. The standoff lasted for half a minute before the god of familiars chuckled. "Well, since that is your answer, then so be it," Zenon said. "Now, time for you to take that step and become a progenitor of the familiomancer profession." Zenon raised his hand and the vial that contained the dungeon core essence floated in the air. Elliot's and Conan's body glowed as the essence stored inside the vial merged with their bodies. The angelic familiar and the devil familiar were wrapped in golden cocoons that glowed brightly. Suddenly, a beam of light from both familiars shot towards the gem in William's chest. The half-elf felt an overwhelming surge of magical energy that flowed through his entire body. Ding! Requirements for ascension have been met. 5%. William waited patiently until the upgrade of the job class was completed. When the completion rate had reached 100%, the half-elf heard a cracking sound from the two golden cocoons inside of him. The golden cocoons shattered like a broken glass, revealing the two familiars within. An angel, the size of an adult's hands, floated with his eyes closed. He was still wearing the same clothes that he had before, and nothing changed much on Elliot's appearance. The only noticeable change was his wings. Instead of 2 pairs of wings, now he had 4. Conan was the same. In the past, he had a pair of bat-like wings, but now he had 4 of them. A few seconds later, both familiars opened their eyes and the power of millennial beasts surged from within their bodies. "Congratulations," Zenon said with a smile. "You are now a progenitor of the familiomancer profession, just like Celeste. I hope that you will do your best to spread the wonders of the familiomancers to the entire world of Hestia." Just as soon as Zenon finished his congratulations, a series of notifications appeared on William's status page. Courage is the power to let go of the familiar. As one of the chosen ones of the God of Familiars, you are given the special privilege of bestowing the power of the familiomancer to anyone. As a familiomancer progenitor, your familiars are stronger than ordinary familiars. You have learned the skill familiomancer bestowal skill. You have learned the skill familiomancer perfect fusion. You have acquired the special title familiomancer sovereign. Bestow the power of familiomancer to a person. Familiomancer bestowal opportunities can be used 3x. More bestowal opportunities will be added once the familiomancers you have chosen have ascended to the next stage. Current familiomancers under your wing, 0/3. First form. The familiomancer can fuse with his familiars and use their abilities. Under fusion form, all abilities of the familiars are increased by 200%. You may cancel fusion form anytime. Second form. Your familiars can fuse with you and use your body as a vessel. Your permission is needed before this form can be activated. You and the familiar can choose a set duration for this skill to remain active. Familiars can cancel fusion form anytime. Under this fusion form, the familiars will have complete control of the body and all of their abilities will be increased by 500%. Special title. Grants a plus 200 enhancement bonus to all stats. Increases your attack and defense by 10%. Familiars gain 100% increase in their attack and defense. William was quite happy with the additional bonus in stats. He had clearly felt an overall increase in his strength after equipping the familiomancer sovereign job class. The one thing that piqued his curiosity was the familiomancer perfect fusion. He had experienced what it was like to fuse with his wives, but he had never tried fusing with his familiars. He was curious on how powerful his familiars would be if they fused with him. While he was deep in thought, Zenon's words reached his ears. "It's time for you to go back," Zenon said. "Make sure to take care of Celeste in the future." The corners of Zenon's lips rose as he waved his hand to send William back to the temple. The half-elf and the two familiars were enveloped in a golden light before disappearing from his domain. "You want to save both?" Zenon placed his hands behind his back as he looked down from the top of the Tower of Babylon. "That will be difficult, William. But, it's not impossible. I look forward to seeing you try." Chapter 768. With great danger comes great opportunity. Did you succeed? Celeste asked when she saw William reappear in front of her. The half-elf nodded with a smile. He then glanced at his two familiars who floated beside him. "Chloe, do I look more handsome than before?" Elliot asked as he approached the little fairy who was looking back at him with a curious gaze. "I swear that after I ascended, I became 50% cooler." "Eh? I don't see any difference," Chloe replied as she circled Elliot. "The only thing that changed is the number of your wings. Are you supposed to look cooler because of it?" "My goodness! I am sincerely troubled by your lack of aesthetic criticism." "Aesthetic criticism? Is that edible?" While Elliot and Chloe were having a heated discussion, Claire flew towards Conan, and the latter immediately hid behind William. "Don't worry, I will not hurt you," Claire said. "I just want to look at the changes to your body." "Why, you can look, but don't touch," Conan replied. "Look. I'm not going to eat you, okay? I know that you just recovered, so I just want to check your condition." "Just check my condition? You're not going to do anything else?" Claire nodded. For some reason, after seeing how worried Princess Ayla was to Conan, she felt an indescribable feeling of irritation in her heart. She didn't understand why she felt that way, but it made her feel very uncomfortable. Because of this, she decided to take a different approach in regards to the devil familiar, who seemed to have developed a trauma from her incessant physical examinations. Seeing that the four familiars were getting along just fine, William bid Celeste goodbye as he went towards the library of Hestia Academy. Right now, he intended to seriously upgrade all of his job classes and unlock the true power of the Jack of all trades. Since the Prince of Thunder job class had reached its maximum level, William decided to ascend it to its next form. The only problem was that he needed to travel to the forbidden land of the Seventh Sanctum and find the Hall of Thunder. He had already asked Optimus about the Forbidden Ground, but the latter said that it didn't have much data about it. The only thing that the system knew about the Seventh Sanctum was that it was close to the western edge of the central continent. The nearest city to the Forbidden Ground was the port city of Alabaster. This port city was a neutral ground, where humans, beastkin, dwarves, half-elves, and elves live in harmony. Slave trading was banned from this city, and any slave trader that was caught loitering around its borders was given the death penalty. Just like the name suggested, this city of Alabaster was a major trading ground due to its access to naval trade. Several merchant ships that hailed from the Silver Moon continent would often dock here to bring rare commodities that could only be found on the homeland of the elves. Since he wanted to know more about his destination, he decided to check the library to read the relevant references that would aid him in his quest. Although he said reading, the only thing he needed to do was open the pages and have Optimus record the information in its database. The system would then compile the information and give William the summary of the things he needed to know about the Seventh Sanctum. "Should I bring the others with me?" William muttered. The Forbidden Grounds was a dangerous place and very few people had the courage to venture inside it. Very powerful monsters that couldn't be seen anywhere else in the continent usually thrived inside this perilous domain. Of course, there were also rare ingredients, herbs, and metals that were used for cooking, alchemy, and forging. Only those that had confidence in their strength and ability would visit this forbidden ground. The riches that could be found inside it was enough for anyone to be set for life. As the saying goes, with great danger, comes great opportunity. "I guess I'll just ask them later," William mused as he walked towards the library. If his wives decided to follow him, then he would not turn them away. The quarterly assessment lasted for a month, so he still had plenty of time to go to the Seventh Sanctum and discover the secrets that could be found within this mysterious domain. "Lilith, how can you be so careless?" Empress Androsta asked in a helpless tone. "You should have escaped immediately when the myriad beast appeared. Why didn't you prioritize your safety?" "Mother, I couldn't possibly leave the others behind," Lilith replied. "If I left them to fend for themselves, wouldn't that tarnish our reputation? What would others think of me?" "Silly girl! You are not fighting against a millennial beast. That is a myriad beast. If William hadn't arrived, you might have become that Dryad's nursery by now. So what if your reputation is tarnished? You could have escaped and asked for help. Hestia Academy would have definitely sent its experts, even Byron would personally lead the expedition in order to capture that Dryad. You didn't need to put yourself in unnecessary danger because of strangers. Lilith frowned as she looked at the projection of her mother. Right now, she was inside her room in the girls' dormitory. She had just finished taking a bath when the communication crystal that Androsta had given her started to glow. She didn't expect that the moment she answered it, she would receive a nagging from her mother who was currently in the Ares Empire. Sorry, mother. It won't happen again. Lilith sighed. I will be more careful next time. After hearing her daughter's apology, Empress Androsta finally stopped her nagging. When she had received Byron's report about what happened to her daughter, she immediately hurled profanities at the headmaster of Hestia Academy, which made the latter almost throw the communication crystal away. Byron opted to inform the Amazon Empress about what happened because he was afraid that Empress Androsta would misunderstand, once she received a report from her daughter, Lilith. Right after their talk ended, she immediately called Lilith, which led to the current situation. Okay, just don't let this happen again, Empress Androsta said softly. How is the progress with William? Did you manage to invite him to the Ares Empire? Lilith shook her head. He is a tough nut to crack. It seems that he is satisfied with his wives, and has no intention of visiting our empire. Empress Androsta smirked when she heard her daughter's words. Since that is the case, it's time for you to make your move, Empress Androsta. You already know what to do, right? Yes, mother, Lilith replied. Whether he wants to do it or not, he will not have a choice after I'm done with him. Good girl. The Crimson Festival is almost here. Do your best to invite him to attend the festivities. Wait, it will be better to invite your entire class. You can even invite your homeroom teacher to come. That way he will not be too guarded when visiting our empire. As long as he steps inside our domain, he is as good as ours. Lilith smiled sweetly and nodded her head. Leave this to me, mother. Lilith smirked. I will definitely make it happen. Empress Androsta smiled evilly as well. Good. As expected of my daughter. Don't worry. I will make the necessary preparations on my end. The mother and daughter pair giggled as they gave each other knowing glances. They look forward to the unexpected gains that they would acquire on the day of the Crimson Festival in the Ares Empire. Chapter 769. Time for round 23. Are you game? Inside the villa in the Thousand Beast domain. Big brother ha, I'm sorry MMH. Chiffon, won't ha do it again MMMH. The pink-haired girl panted as William used both gentle and rough attacks in order to bring her to the heights of pleasure. Why are you asking for forgiveness? Did you do anything bad to me? William whispered. He was currently seated on a couch, with Chiffon sitting on top of him, with her hands wrapped around his head. The little glutton was like a small boat, in the middle of a storm. No matter how hard she tried to resist, the mighty waves would wash over her body, making her shudder. William continued his attacks, while whispering words of love in her ears. Big brother, please have mercy MMH. William sealed Chiffon's lips with a kiss and held her body tightly. After their lips parted, the pink-haired girl panted for breath. William allowed her to regain her breathing and ceased all movements. When his wife had finally calmed down, he pulled her close to him and kissed her forehead. I love you, Chiffon. I hope what happened inside the dungeon will not happen again. I'm sorry, Will. The two kissed once more. This time, it was a very sweet kiss. When it ended, William made love to her, and Chiffon held on to him tightly. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl's body trembled as she and William reached their peak. She felt the raging warmth of her husband's love erupt inside her, which brought waves, upon waves of euphoria, turning her world completely white. A few moments later, Chiffon's delicate body lost its strength, and collapsed weakly on top of William. "It seems that Chiffon is still not used to the throes of pleasure," a teasing voice said from on top of the bed. "Poor girl, she fainted." Morgana, who had been lying on the bed for a while, walked towards William in all her naked glory. Several kiss marks could be seen on her seductive body, indicating that William had adequately punished her as well. Similar to Chiffon, Ash was lying on the bed, and was deep asleep. William had made love to her many times, until the beautiful mermaid begged him to stop. Now, she was sleeping peacefully, like the pink-haired girl in William's arms. Among William's wives, only the succubus princess could match his prowess when it came to love-making. William kissed Chiffon's head and wrapped his arms around her body, securing her in place. Princess Sidonie sat beside William and kissed Chiffon's cheeks, before shifting her attention to her beloved husband, who was punishing them for their transgression in the dungeon of the Horde. "Darling, are you sure you don't want to take us to the Forbidden Grounds?" Morgana asked. "I'm sure that Ash and Chiffon won't allow you to go alone. You should at least take one of them with you, to give me and them some peace of mind." William pondered for a brief moment before reluctantly nodding his head. "Knowing Chiffon, she will indeed tag along with me no matter what," William replied helplessly as he softly patted the sleeping girl's head. "I'll ask Ash to stay with you and make sure you don't get into trouble." Morgana giggled when she felt William's nog-thigh hand start to caress her snowy white peaks. "You can play with them as much as you want later," Morgana said as she stopped William's hand from continuing its teasing of her white rabbit. "Let's have a serious discussion first." Seeing that Morgana wanted to talk seriously, William ceased all actions and nodded his head in acknowledgement. According to the information in the library, the time inside the Forbidden Ground flows slower than in the outside world, William explained. "But, the difference isn't that much. A day in the outside world is equivalent to 2 days inside the Forbidden Ground. If nothing untoward happens, I'll be back in less than a month." Morgana nodded her head. She knew that William was doing this because it was important. As his wife, she intended to support his decision and patiently wait for his return. "Can we help you in any way?" Princess Sidonie asked. She had just woken up from her slumber, and immediately swapped with Morgana in order to talk to William about important matters. "Actually, there is something you can help me with," William replied. "Visit Shannon more often. Know more about her. You want me to understand what sin she carries, right?" "Yes. It will help me tremendously if you find that out." Princess Sidonie moved closer and kissed William's left cheek. "I will do my best. You should be careful inside the Forbidden Ground. Leave Soleil with me so you can return anytime." William kissed her back before nodding his head. "I will do that." "Ah! I almost forgot, make sure to bring Lilith with you as well." "Lilith? Why?" William couldn't understand why he had to bring the greedy Amazon with him on his journey. Besides, the half-elf was wary of her because the latter was serious in getting his genes. Princess Sidonie smiled. "Because her power is very useful. She's like a compass in finding treasures. If you bring her with you, the chances of finding something of great value is high. No, it is guaranteed that you will find something good if you bring her with you. After all, the Forbidden Ground is known for its wealth. Those who are able to come back alive will definitely earn a fortune." The beautiful princess wasn't worried about William's safety because he had many trump cards in his disposal. He could travel anywhere at the speed of lightning, and also had instant teleportation with the power of Soleil. Escaping was not an issue for her beloved half-elf, so she was confident that William would come back to her in one piece. If push came to shove, he could use his heroic avatar or his Einherjar job class. Not to mention, he had a mighty legion at his disposal. Suddenly a thought flashed inside Princess Sidonie's mind. The image of William ransacking the entire Forbidden Domain, and dumping it inside his own Thousand Beast domain, almost made her giggle. Knowing how shameless her husband was, the chances of that happening was extremely high. After giving Princess Sidonie's idea some consideration, William thought that it was indeed a very good plan to gather resources. With Lilith by his side, he would have a walking treasure radar that could pick up the locations of treasures instantly. Optimus had this function as well, but the system warned him that the laws of the Forbidden Ground might prevent it from using its special scanner to look for treasures in the surroundings. After agreeing with Princess Sidonie's proposal, William gently carried Chiffon towards the bed and laid her down. Once he completed this task, the beautiful princess wrapped her arms around William's body and stared at his beautiful eyes that reflected her own. Time for round 23. Are you game? Princess Sidonie asked in a teasing tone. William smirked as his naughty hands lightly squeezed the bum of the beautiful princess. Always, William replied as he pulled her lover towards the couch. Soon, the sound of spring permeated inside the room. William showed his succubus princess that his stamina and tenacity matched hers perfectly. Chapter 770. Don't let him cheat on us, okay? You are going to the Forbidden Ground, 7th Sanctum, and you want me to go with you? Lilith asked as she looked at the half-elf with a curious gaze. The Amazon princess was quite surprised when William approached her. Lilith thought that the half-elf had a grudge against her after she had stolen the collar of wisteria from Princess Sidonie's neck. Since then, Lilith had stopped pestering William because she didn't want the latter to hate her more. In order to bring him to the Ares Empire, she needed to be on his good side, and make the red-headed teenager drop his guard around her. William nodded, yes. Are you free or do you have any other plans? I'm free, Lilith replied in a heartbeat. She was afraid that William would change his mind after inviting her. However, there was still one thing that bothered her, so she decided to ask the half-elf the question that had been in her mind. Why me? Lilith inquired. William scratched his head in embarrassment before giving his answer. Because you are the best partner when it comes to looking for treasures. The Forbidden Ground might be a dangerous place, but it is also ripe with resources. I was hoping that you could help me get some of them during my trip to the 7th Sanctum. Lilith smiled. I see. You came to find the right person. With me around, finding treasures is as easy as breathing. Great. William nodded. I still need to prepare things for our journey. How about we meet at the Academy's teleportation gate at noon tomorrow? Good. I'll see you tomorrow then. All right. Lilith watched William's retreating back with a smile on her face. When their group had faced the myriad beast, Conan did his best to stall for time until William arrived. Lilith had long heard that William was powerful, but she still hadn't seen the extent of his powers. Although she was present during the founding celebration of the Misty Sect, William's battle with Meredith ended without anyone seeing the half-elf's capabilities. When the Dryad attacked them, Lilith was paralyzed, but she was still aware of her surroundings. This was why she had immediately noticed William's arrival. Unfortunately, before she could even see the half-elf in action, she was knocked unconscious by the demonic dog, Psoglov, and taken away. Because of this, she was not able to see how William fought the myriad beast. Even so, she was confident that with William around, exploring the Forbidden Grounds would not be too dangerous. This would also help her know more about the red-headed teenager, which the entire Amazon Empire had set their eyes on. The 7th Sanctum, Empress Androsta frowned as she looked at her daughter. That is a very dangerous place, Lilith. Are you confident that you will be able to leave that place in one piece? Yes, Lilith replied. I have 70% assurance that I will be able to leave it without fail. Also, I have a feeling that William wouldn't do something as stupid as going to the Forbidden Grounds without sufficient strength. If he can fend off against a myriad beast, then the chances of safely leaving the 7th Sanctum is very high. Okay, you may go, Empress Androsta reluctantly agreed. You can also use this opportunity to save William during tough situations, making him indebted to you. That will be a bit hard to do, since he is stronger than me. Silly girl. William may be strong, but he is not invincible. Just do your best to get close to him during this journey. Understood. Lilith smiled. Mother, about our plan, I think it will be best if you talk to the headmaster about it. You can invite the entire 3rd grade, as well as the professors of the academy, and treat it as a cultural exchange. This way, we don't even need to invite William to the Ares Empire. The academy will do it for us. Empress Andraste smirked as she looked at her daughter with appreciation. As expected of my daughter, you are a genius, Empress Andraste praised. Very well. Just leave this matter to me. You go and accompany our stud horse on a little field trip to the Forbidden Ground and come back as soon as possible. Lilith nodded. Understood. I will do my best, Mother. The next day, Lilith stood beside the teleportation gate of Hestia Academy, while she waited for William. Because she had informed her mother about her journey, the Amazon Empress repeatedly told her to be careful and to do her best to make the half-elf owe her a favor. While Lilith was deep in her thoughts, a familiar voice called out to her from a distance. Sorry if we made you wait. Are you ready to go? Lilith raised her head and saw William and Chiffon walking hand in hand. Princess Sidonie and Ian were also there to send them off, and they gave Lilith a brief nod as a greeting. Don't worry. I just got here as well, Lilith replied as she nodded back. I'm ready to go anytime. William nodded before turning his head to look at Princess Sidonie and Ian. We will be going now. Ian, make sure that Sidonie behaves. Ian smiled in acknowledgement. I'll look after her. As for the 3 of you, make sure to return safely. We will be waiting. Princess Sidonie, on the other hand, raised an eyebrow as she crossed her arms over her chest, highlighting the curves that would make any guy lose their composure. Chiffon, make sure to look after our husband, Princess Sidonie stressed the word husband before glancing in Lilith's direction. Don't let him cheat on us, okay? Chiffon patted her modest chest before replying. Leave it to me. I will not let him cheat on us. Sidonie felt like her warning wasn't enough, so she decided to walk towards William, and gave him a long passionate kiss on the lips. She was well aware that there are many beautiful ladies in the academy who were giving the half-elf meaningful glances. Fortunately, William didn't care about them, but it still irked Princess Sidonie to have her beloved man stared at by hungry, thieving cats. This was why she decided to give a public display of affection to deter the girls who were targeting her husband. Everyone who was there at the teleportation gate saw this passionate scene and gritted their teeth in envy. The boys couldn't help but wish that instead of William, the one that was being kissed by the princess was them. Damn! That bastard is so lucky. I wish I was him. Maybe he accumulated a lot of karma by saving a universe in his past life. This is the only thing I can think of for him to get Princess Sidonie as his wife. Just imagining how he can have his way with the beautiful princess' perfect body is enough to give me a nosebleed. Oi! You're really having a nosebleed. Wipe it off before anyone sees it. After the kiss ended, William gave Princess Sidonie the "you sure know how to make a scene" stare before giving her a light hug. Don't forget to visit Shannon on a regular basis, William whispered. I have a feeling that she's eager to have a conversation partner. Okay, Princess Sidonie replied. Leave her to me. Lilith looked at this scene with an indifferent gaze, but deep inside, she felt a little envious of Princess Sidonie. As the Amazon princess, she also had many suitors that hailed from the different kingdoms and empires in the central continent. The royal families of these nations would often send their princes to the Ares Empire for a possible marriage agreement, but the Empress had turned all of them down. The Amazons didn't care for a person's background. All they cared about was strength. Lilith had promised herself that she would only get the best, so she had been keeping an eye out for potential partners whenever she traveled around the continent. Her purpose for this trip was to get a better understanding of William's strength. Only after seeing it would she finally make her decision. After the hug ended, William bid his wives one last goodbye before walking towards the teleportation gate with Chiffon and Lilith. The three disappeared under the envious stares of the students of the academy. It would take them a week to reach the port city of Alabaster, and 2 more days before they reached the Forbidden Ground. William was actually looking forward to this journey. This was the first time that he would be entering a forbidden ground. The half-elf was quite eager to uncover the secrets that hid within that mysterious domain.